Hello, welcome. There's been a new patch, and I want to break that down first and just sort of talk about it a little bit and talk about all of the changes that have been made. We're going to talk about the cards and break them each down. The bearded guy in the store window. I don't think I didn't see him. There's a bearded guy in the store window? What? Let's see. Yeah, because like this is where you buy stuff, right? This pack section? I'm confused. Oh, Jesus. Okay, there he is. Hi. Alright, the store has a new shopkeep. He is a weird looking dude. Alright, cool bit of art. That's neat. Fair enough. First things first, we got the sample hand feature, which is super useful. If you want to see exactly how bad your Greed Dragon deck is, you can just go into it and pull up a sample hand. And as you can see, this hand's like pretty good, and considering this hand's absolutely no good at all, but if we redraw, then, you know, we'll get something back. And it'll be okay. So yeah, you can actually like test out hands in the deck building stage, which is a really useful way to get a feel for your deck. Just a super useful feature. Obviously, that's something that you're going to want in your advanced deck building options, so I think that's amazing. We're all good there. You can now undo creating or destroying a card while you're still viewing the card, so that'll be pretty useful, but I don't think I need to demonstrate it or anything like that. The Shift Stone button will always highlight when you have extra cards to destroy, so like anytime I have anything to destroy, this thing will be shinier, and that'll be nice. It's not like over a threshold now. I think it used to be like, if you had like over 100 dust worth of stuff, then it'd yell at you to destroy stuff, but now it's a little bit more straightforward about it. An additional button has been added to the collection in Deck Builder to make it easier to find and destroy extra cards. That is right in here. That's this button right there. There's been some updated art, VFX, and sound effects. The store has the new shopkeep. Gauntlet has a new background. I don't think I've actually seen the Gauntlet background. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. I'm sure it'll be cool. Oh yeah, nice and shiny. It looks like Ikaria fighting a gunslinger, which is pretty fantastic. Yeah, that's definitely Ikaria. I don't know who the gunslinger is. I think that's like, is that the like standard gunslinger? The 2-2 for 2? 2-2 for 4? It could be somebody else. But anyways, yeah, so shiny new art. There's also been art updated for Ageless Mentor, Voice of the Speaker, Privilege of Ranked. Yeah, I'd actually be pretty happy to go through all of those. Let's go ahead and take a look. Ageless Mentor is the 3-2 for 3 in yellow. And Voice of the Speaker clearly got an update. Oh yeah, Voice of the Speaker looks lovely. Ageless Mentor. That's a very similar design to the previous Ageless Mentor. I don't know what it looked like before, but that's a pretty decent comparison. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube, and we'll put the original card art side by side, I think. Privilege of Rank got an update. Oh, that's pretty cool. Privilege of Rank's art was pretty straightforward, so we'll see what Privilege of Rank is now. Nice and shiny, so yeah, neat. Looks like it's pretty well focused around that city, Argenport. So, yeah, kind of cool there. We also got Fine Storyteller art. I remember seeing that. It's the what? There we go. They're using the characters with the strange helmets again. That's we've seen cards like these before. I believe Praxis Displacer is another card like this who has that interesting type of mask where you can't actually see out of it. So yeah, that'll be probably something to do with the Praxis art style, that kind of thing. So yeah, pretty neat. Yes, her skin did get darker, that's true. So yeah, and pretty sweet hair. We got Gorilla Fighter, which is, oh yeah, that's a significant improvement as well. A bit different. Hellhound Yearling has been changed to Forge Wolf. It's still terrible. So significantly more threatening looking and significantly less, significantly exactly the same as far as like goodness goes. Let's see what the shiny one looks like. Well, it's not like broken and leaking pixels, so that's not bad. And finally, Cabal Mastermind got an update. Oh, I missed that. We built a Cabal Mastermind update pretty recently, so That's pretty exciting. Yeah, Cabal Mastermind is male now. That's interesting. Looks like... He looks almost like a stranger, which is kind of... I don't think he is a stranger. That's not a scar or anything like that. But he looks a little similar to the strangers from previous ones. I don't know. I don't like this one too much, but the art is actually like pretty neat looking overall. Like it's very, very. It has a lot of pop to it. So yeah, it's not bad at all. Legendary units now have unique visual effects related to their faction when entering the field. Guerrilla Fighter and Cloud of Ash receive visual effects updates that better match their abilities, so we'll see some of those when we play the game. There's new sound effects when flipping open a legendary card from a pack. I'm not going to flip open a bunch of packs to try and get that to happen, but that's super cool. And finally, there's been new intro VFX added to Endurance, Overwhelm, Unblockable, and Warcry, all of which we will definitely be seeing in games sooner or later. Okay, so League badges show off your final rank from the previous season. So when we're in a game, you'll see like a small badge that will essentially show off what your rank was previously, which is pretty nice. Like, it's nice to have that sort of bit of a thing to show off with. The special rank up chests in the Forge now contain an extra 1,000 gold, so that'll make Forge a little bit more viable, which is useful. And Gauntlet also has special rank up chests when you increase your rank, and these contain a pack and 250 gold. So Gauntlet's become a little bit more viable, which is nice because both of those, like that sort of like co-op versus AI type mode, or well, that just versus AI type mode was a strength of Eternal, and the rewards for it had gotten a little bit slim. So we're all pretty happy to see that. We've also got the new preference to disable your opponent's totem interactions, and I think that's checked by default because I haven't been noticing them. Oh, no, but haha, yes, we'll definitely turn that on. I have no interest in hearing my opponent's totem interactions. And there's also a new preference added to disable all the hotkeys, so if you don't want to use attack all by accident, you can do that. And if you don't want to like hit spacebar and misclick that way, then that is another thing that you can do. You can disable everything. So yeah, that'll be pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and look at the card changes next and do a little bit of a card breakdown. Let me get back to the patch notes real quick, though. Okay, card changes. First off, we got Ejin, which is always delightful. We have premium Ejin, so we're pretty happy about this. Ejin Imperial Armor has gone from a 5-cost 5/5 to a 3-cost 3/2. Instead of 2 green influence and 2 red, she's 2 red and 1 green. And finally, she, instead of reading pay 5 and exhaust Ejin to put a 5/5 mithril armor on anybody, you pay 4 and exhaust Ejin to put a 4/4 mithril armor on another one of your units. So she can't armor herself anymore. That's pretty important. This card is, as far as things go, it's a much more viable legendary than Ejin Imperial Armorer was before. I feel like Ejin Imperial Armorer, the 5/5, had a place, and there was maybe some options where you could play like really late game decks that would use Ejin properly, but it was pretty hard to do, especially in set 1, when Rakano just has so much going on in the early game that makes it really, really not all that useful to be waiting on like 5-cost drops that late. This Ejin is a little bit cheaper. She's a little bit weaker. Like, she does die to Lightning Storm, she dies to Piercing Shot, she dies to a bunch of stuff that you would not normally be able to die to if you were a 5/5 Ejin, but she doesn't die to Vanquish, which is somewhat relevant because she's a late game card that doesn't die to Vanquish. But still, like, being able to get killed by a torch is not necessarily great, so there are a lot of things about this card that are a bit fragile, and the fact that she can't armor herself anymore means that she can't fix that fragility in any sense of the word. So she's always going to be a piece of your combo that is going to be a little bit tricky. That makes her, as a 3-drop, I would say, not especially strong. But if she actually does stay out on the board and gets even 1 mithril armor, then she becomes very, very good. And as a result, as like a 7-drop, she's extremely strong. And like, she's probably still pretty good in like most early game strategies. We've been running her in our Deep Forge Plate Rakano deck. The results have been just fine. She looks like she's gonna have a place in a lot of different parts of the meta now. I think that she's gonna be a pretty good card. So yeah, pretty exciting. Ejin is a card that I have a lot of love for, and the new one isn't like as exciting to me personally, but it is a much more viable card. And it's nice to have one more viable legendary, just improving the meta and making things interesting. So that's pretty cool. The Rhymescale Draconis change, I actually think is also quite neat. I haven't seen this card being played yet. I don't know if people will be playing it yet, or if they will decide to play it, but it lost 1 cost and 1 health, and other than that, it hasn't changed very much. And, oh, I really like this card's premium, by the way. I've always liked the premium. Just it's coming out of his eyes. It's amazing. Yes, so, yeah, so this card actually has a lot of potential, I think, now that it's a little bit cheaper and a little bit easier to play. The objective that they stated for putting this card out is to increase the variety of costs among expensive cards and give players more options at 7. And it's true that there weren't as many options at 7 as there were at 8. And of course, Primal decks had a pretty good Scion at 8 that made Rhymescale Draconis just basically impossible to play. Like, you just wouldn't play her because there was a 6/6 flyer that always helped you out if you were playing Primal. And so this card never saw any play. But I think this time around it's going to be pretty good. So yeah, that'll be kind of neat. Gorgon Fanatic got a change. Not the change that I would have expected, actually, but overall it's pretty cool. So sacrifice it and draw 3 cards and gain 3 health. This makes this card even better in draft than it already was, which is pretty fantastic. It does allow for a lot more of those infiltrate decks that really like to use infiltrates to go through. Fnatic's problems remain the same. It's still pretty vulnerable, and if it can't get through, then you're just not going to win the game. But this gives you a bit more of a reward for actually getting Fnatic through, and that's pretty important because Fnatic sacrifices itself and therefore loses you some board position. So a little bit of health to make up for that, because you are going to be taking some damage before you can build your board position up again, is pretty nice. I think this is a much stronger card than it was, and it was already a pretty strong card to begin with. So making that archetype valid is the strategy here as far as this patch note, goes, and I think that they're going to do that job pretty fantastically. We should see some more Gorgon Fanatic decks in the meta. I've already seen a couple of them. Amethyst Acolyte has been made into a good card. I don't know what to make of this card yet, actually. Its summon is given enemy unit -1/-1, and that's actually not bad at all. I think right now what you're running if you don't like Dawnwalkers is Plague, and sometimes you run Plague for other reasons, but for the most part Plague is just there to kill Dawnwalkers. This is the new card to kill Dawnwalkers, and it's also not a bad card for it. I would say that a body plus a piece of permanent removal is pretty relevant. This card can get rid of a lot of interesting threats. I think it's significantly better than it was, and it's actually a pretty interesting threat. I don't know if it will see play in the regular meta. It's still a little bit weak on stats, but that summon effect is actually really quite powerful. So there are some ways that it can be used over and over again through Resurrection, through cards like Mirror Image. I think this actually has some potential to be played. And yeah, its strength against Dawnwalker is, it makes it very decent. Passage of Ages now only destroys enemy attachments. So the only decks that wanted to play Passage of Ages were slow control decks that had a lot of attachments. I have experienced this myself. It is a card that I want to play desperately in Stronghold decks, or Stronghold Visage decks, and in Crown of Possibilities decks. So I think that this particular change makes Passage of Ages better. Whether or not it makes it playable in comparison to Decay is still questionable, but I think that the sheer strength of this ability actually makes it so that we're going to have a nice way to break open those Stronghold decks now. Just crack all those Eyes of Winters and those Stronghold Visages. I think this is actually going to be a pretty good card for answering equipment-heavy metas. And overall, I think that's actually not a bad deal. Decay still has the value of being a fast spell, so it will still see a lot of play in most decks. I think Passage of Ages is going to be more interesting in the slow control meta now, and it'll be nice to see it actually played. The monuments have been changed. So we have 3 monuments that have been changed. Amethyst Monument is now a 3/3 Puma with Lifesteal. I don't think that's going to increase its playability, but you might see it now and again in purple decks, now that it's tough enough to withstand a lightning storm. In particular, it might be okay in purple-red rush decks that are already looking for a couple of ways to dodge lightning storms while keeping their unit count low and their power count even lower. Hello, cat. Cobalt Monument is now a 3/4 Storm Dancer with flying. That's going to be a much more powerful card in draft. It's not really changing too much as far as ranked goes. I think it will see some play because it's no longer killable by Torch. That's pretty good overall. And finally, Amber Monument is a 5/5 Reinarch with Overwhelm. This is the most exciting one because the Reinarch now triggers Dawnwalkers and triggers Ancient Wisps. I think that this is actually probably going to be the most powerful monument in the set now, just on account of the fact that it can trigger all of those different abilities. Like, yeah, I think, let's see, it's the Reinarch, it's the Wisp, the Dawnwalker, and the card that reduces its cost, Sauropod Wrangler. All of which say, you know, if you have 5 power or greater, then you're going to get some benefit out of this. Actually, can I just say 5 power? Or is it 5 strength? I assume it's 5 strength. Because it's strength and health, right? So if we say 5 strength, yeah, here we go. So there are 3 cards in yellow that already care about 5 strength or more. And so as a result, that's going to make the monument a lot better. We like this card a lot. I think this is actually like one of the stronger cards to be changed, and it's going to make some mono time decks possible that probably weren't possible before. It's going to make a lot of interesting decks possible that weren't possible before, and it gives you some options to play Dawnwalker decks without Sandstorm Titan, which is fairly important if you're playing Pauper Time. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. So that should be it for the changes. Oh, no, I lied. There are 2 more changes, and let's go ahead and address those real quick. Combrei Magister. These changes are primarily designed to look at draft. So Combrei Magister is now a 5/2 for 5. I don't know quite how to evaluate this as far as draft goes. I think that it's a slightly stronger draft card because it's a little bit more aggressive, and it does basically the same thing that you did before, which is be evasive and put your opponent on a clock. So it might be kind of interesting on that front. However, it's definitely a worse ranked card. We actually were trying to run this card in ranked with a Coup de Grace deck, which was about the only place that you could fit it before, and now it just doesn't even fit in that. It's way too expensive. It's way too easy to kill. As far as like ranked goes, I think this card is now like pretty much bottom of the pile. In draft, it may be actually okay. Like, it's gonna be kind of interesting. They want it to combine with 5 Strength Matters cards like those in Time, which is kind of neat, and there might be a couple of reasons to pick it. But we'll see if this card actually has any impact on the draft landscape, or if indeed it's going to be an even worse card than it is currently in draft. And it's actually okay in draft right now. So Sapphire Dragon is another card that's okay in draft, and it went from being okay in draft to being kind of bonkers. Yeah, it's no longer a 5 cost, but it's now a 6 cost with flying and overwhelm. That's a lot of evasion, and that's a really powerful card for an uncommon. This card really gets across now. It does a ton of damage. It's really hard to block. It can be killed by lightning strike still, so there's a slightly higher risk in playing it. But overall, like, this card is pretty neat. The main thing that I would note about this is that in draft, you're going to want to be picking Lightning Strike and the card that I always recommend people pick, which is Violent Gust. A lot higher, because Sapphire Dragon will absolutely wreck your day if you don't have the removal for it. And yeah, I think that card is going to be crazy nuts in draft, so it'll be pretty cool. Okay, that's it for now. We will go ahead and put that into a YouTube video, so for the YouTube people, thanks for watching, and we're going to get into some games.